The boffins of Ebble Green, though they seem new to the realms of elsewhere, they have been there for as long as creativity and invention have existed. Now each one of them, whether it's Master Quillet or Balderborn the Fifth, or the hat maker, or the old lady who grows trees, or even Braden Boffin, all of them, all of these boffins are here to remind us that creativity is far more important than perfection.
So it's Easter Monday, and I've been creating this boffin on TikTok and creating them live. I did a drawing late last night. Gone to bed. I had a hot water bottle on my lap. It's really cold here. And I'm just going to put this here and I'll explain why in a minute. There. And I was explaining how I just had this idea that I wanted to draw a character with a map. And I will just say that I'm a great one in believing that you should allow yourself to experiment. And in doing that, and if you experiment on camera as well, even more so, but allowing yourself to experiment, in other words, not to be perfect. In fact, perfection is not the key. What is actually the key is allowing yourself to experiment and be free. I do it with storytelling all the time. Even with stories that I tell a lot, I'm allowing myself to be free. And I'll often say to an audience, I've never told that story like that before. I'm not trying to indulge the story. I'm not trying to tell more. It's more about being inside the story and telling the bits that I'm seeing in a narrative. Same with a drawing like this then. So last night I drew a quick sketch of this character. And at first I thought this was a high collar on a coat. And I quickly did the face, very simply, with pencil. And I thought, I won't like that. That's a cool face. Off I went. And this morning on the live, I was just saying, as I will now say here, as I start to reach the next stage, isn't that interesting? I thought to myself, that isn't a collar, that's a scarf. I love scarves. So it's not me, but it is my fascination for scarves. So I started filling in, as I'm doing now, but it's a scarf. So my next job is to find the character. And I talk in my books about the old way. What is the way? A journey. And when, in my world, the stone of destiny, the future, in other words, in the form of a giant stone that's, I don't know, it's as big as 20 buildings. It's a huge stone that lives in Oldemar, which is heaven in my world. When it shatters, all its pieces, in other words, all the future, shatters. When that happens, you end up with, I'm just going to get rid of that pencil. You end up with, there's a good way of saying, if I do that, will that go over there and work better? Yes, it will. You see how that works better? When the future shatters, something else happens that nobody initially appreciates. So not only do people feel lost, you know that feeling when you think you're not doing what you should be doing in your life. You feel a bit lost. You say, I don't think I'm doing what I should be doing. I feel like I'm not on my path. And you don't. It's something we say. I just don't feel like I'm doing what I should be doing. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But I like the idea as a concept. But what if that actually is something? That actually what's happening there is that you are on your path and then it vanishes. But there is something called the way, with a capital T and a capital W. And the way was the old way. Now we know that the world is full of energy lines. People for thousands of years have been building monuments on them, stone circles on them, later churches. And these are sacred spots, energy spots. They come in lines. And they're in Britain. We have something called the Dragon Line that comes in Land's End. I'll clean that up there. Comes in at Land's End, crosses Britain, not in a straight line, wiggles, and eventually goes out of Britain in a place called Hopson-on-Sea in Norfolk, between Norfolk and Suffolk. And we ancient people knew where these hot spots were on that line, and they would build their sacred sites. And later, Christians, etc., built churches on the same sites. Sometimes they would have bosses inside their churches of the old gods, like the Green Man, or Synonus, or Bridget. And this is a sense of the land. So that means that when I have a boffin who has a skill, all my boffins have skills, what would the skill be? Here is Mrs. Thuggan. She's a hat maker, and she has extraordinary skill, amazing skill. She's making a hat for, here we have the spoon maker. So she's making a hat for the spoon maker. We don't see the spoon maker, we see his hat. We will see in a later illustration. So my boffins have personalities, and the personalities are based around their skills. Here is Braden Boren, who's an alchemist. He's making this extraordinary metal and working with the fairy people. And they've made this sort of contraption to mix their skill with his skill so they can make a metal that's never existed before. And I think in this book, if we go back a bit, we've got here. So this is Megan Valian. She's the moon charmer and alchemist. There's another one. And their hats often portray, or do always portray, moon healing here. Healing ointments, moon lands. Oh, interesting enough, thinking about the moon, things it says on here, in the first land on the moon, married the wind. The moon married the wind. So there are all sorts of ideas and thoughts. Sometimes I'll just do little illustration ideas like this, and sometimes I will do something more major. And here's one who, as I have decided now, is a woman. She is a female. She hasn't got a name yet. And I didn't know she was a female last night, which is great. I do know now. So, she's a compass maker. She's got compasses in her hand. She's got a map here. So, if you're a compass maker, you would have a certain view about a map. And that you have a compass and you have a map because you need to find your way. So all that then begins to add up to something. What does it add up to? I'm just going to do this as I want this to be round. So in doing that, I've often been asked, well, how do you know what that's doing? How do you know that this is going round? Well, I'm showing you it's going round. How am I doing that? By making this go round this shape. The shape becomes like it's three-dimensional. The scarf is no longer flat. As a sculptor, for years, I got so used to working in 3D. Now I know that this scarf is thick. So I'm just going to do that. So that's going to be thick. Like that. Because I want to make more of that. But I also want it to be scarf-like, so it's going to be quite sort of hairy. So I've got to be a bit careful I don't make these too flat. So it's a woven scarf. It's going to look really nice against the skin here. So I want to have a few loose threads, give it some character. That'll be fun. So this is fun. It's hair. But I've got some loose threads here. There we go. Like that. And then I'm going to put that there. So when I come to colour this, I don't know what colour it's going to be yet. But the threads, there, that really becomes quite interesting now. Now if I make it black, if I really fill a thing with ink, I can't put any colour in it. Or I'll certainly find it much harder. So I'm not going to do that. What am I going to do? Not quite sure yet. This is great. I was saying earlier that perfection gets in the way of creativity. Controversial statement. Perfection gets in the way of creativity. In other words, I'm so concerned with making a line perfect, a face perfect, that the real energy, the creative energy, gets lost in my desire to make something apparently perfect. I suspect that when the Mona Lisa was being created by Leonardo, that he was trying to capture a face. It may have been one of those moments when it just happened. And he would have gone, oh, there, in Italian, of course. There she is. There she is. Whereas it may have taken weeks fretting about her face. So it is quite important not. So I'm learning something here. This is a steep learning curve for me. That perfection gets in the way of creativity. And to just let the eye see what it sees and work with it is better. So instead of me making lots of lovely little patterns here, lots of finished shapes, whatever it might be, I'm allowing the drawing to become a complete, finished piece of artwork by being driven by creativity, not perfection. Crucial point. I was asked what tools I use, and I was encouraging, although I'm using something very small because I'm working really small, if I'm using pencils, I will use something like a 3B, a 6B, something really soft, like this one. This is a 6B, and just make marks and work with it. When I originally did this last night, I did not draw the signpost. I just drew this, what has now turned out to be a woman, a lady, boffin. I just drew her with the map. And then I thought, actually, she could have the signpost behind her. And it'll say other ways and otherwhere or elsewhere or somewhere else. So we can add a bit of humour to it. That'd be nice. I like that idea. And on it went, on it goes. And in doing that, it becomes more exciting for you as the creator. And thereby, if it becomes more exciting, one just puts more of yourself into it. And it just gets stronger. It gets stronger. And the work comes to life. And the fiddling goes out the window. The fiddling can come later in a few places, but perfection is denied access as often as possible. I might consider every line on a face, like that line there, really, really important. So I was a bit careful about those, but I haven't put much in the face. And everything around her, scarf, hat, map, will help to define her as she comes to life on the page and moves from sketch to a full-blown, completed illustration. And that's a really important lesson to learn, that if you trust in your ability to explore your idea, then it will pay dividends and be more alive, much more alive. So I'm beginning to see some movement here in the fabric. So I'm getting some folds in there, which you probably can now see. And those folds are going to have to be emphasized here against the edge of the face. There's that loose thread. So we begin to see the power of the fabric. And when I come to color this, that will transform this again. But I am doing the work now. I'm beginning to see, which I hope you are, that that this is coming to life through me working it, not a plan, more working it, just going with it and going, oh yeah, that works, don't forget that's her chin, that kind of thing. I mean, it would be a disaster if I coloured into that, because she'd change. I liked her long chin. I just drew it really quickly, as I said last night, and now I don't want to lose it. So then I will go into semi-perfection mode, or careful mode. Maybe I should call it careful. That would be better. I go into careful mode to just capture what it is I'm trying to do here, which is to bring the compass maker. And I have to emphasize, she was not the compass maker when I started last night. In fact, she wasn't a she either. But what's important, and trust me, I do know now at this age that I'm at, that the important part of this is the freedom to make mistakes and work with those mistakes. Get down with this nice pristine bit here needs some work on it. It needs to come to life. And if I can share that, and you get something from that thing, which is, this is what's happening here. This is what's happening. That this is coming to life, bit by bit. My character here on Easter Monday is coming to life. And then, wonderfully, the wonderful thing about creativity is time vanishes, utterly vanishes. And you find yourself, I find myself totally and utterly immersed in this process. Look how this, which was nothing, has slowly but surely become something, and set, in doing so, has set up her face. And that means, importantly, that the rest of the picture is driven by that confidence that's come out of being free enough just to sketch live on camera and go, no, I'll work with that, I'll work it. There it is, that's it, there. And that is the utter joy of creativity, is each part of it helps every part of it. Each part of it is supported by the last bit, the next bit, the energy that's coming out of just playing with this drawing that came out of a very simple sketch that I did late last night, but will now fit in my stories. A minor character, Mrs. Boffin, who hasn't got a name yet. Do let me know if you have an idea. If you're too long or too slow, I will come up with my own. So, yeah. So it comes to life, and she begins to take her place where in the village where the Boffins live, which is Ibble Green. So I get asked sometimes, where do you get all these words from, these names? Well, it helps being dyslexic, I will tell you that now. I've just explained that this scarf is not going to sit against a plain surface, so I'm not going to do the edges too much at the minute. Maybe this bit. But the extra threads will be put on later, because I haven't quite decided how I'm going to pattern her coat. So I haven't got that far, so I'll just allow that to happen. Yeah, that's much better. You see how as you begin to put in some texture, it becomes more complete, and she takes on another aspect, another part of her personality, a coat. And so that was an interesting thought. When I drew her, I was thinking, how would you hold that map? Where would her thumb be? Their thumb be? She wasn't a she at that point. Oh yes, it would be there, and that would be coming round there, down to, and she's got something on underneath the coat, of course she has, and that goes round the hand. You can see how that goes round the hand. And maybe I just had this thought. So here's a really good example. She doesn't wear a watch. She wears a compass for a watch. And it tells the time by where you are. Now you see? whoop, 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 whoop. So in that statement that's come out of that's got to be red, that one's got to be black, so I don't do that, has come the thought that time itself is affected by other things other than the passing of time. It's like saying, when you do something you're really enjoying, you always say, oh, that went quick. God, where's the time gone? And when you're doing something you really don't want to do, you go, oh, is this ever going to end? So I have a watch. She has a compass watch that she's invented to work on that issue. So there you go, see. You heard it here first. I must work on that idea. I think I need to get her to meet the Keeper of Time, who will help to understand such a theory as that. When I was doing this hand, I'm just going to finish here. I actually got this finger wrong. It was over here. I was thinking, what's he doing over there? It's not right. Of course it's going to go, but she's holding it. They're holding it. She wasn't a she at that point. And that's her knuckle. And then this. When I was doing the ceramic figures, doing this kind of thing with the little finger was very me. Little finger would pop out like that. There you go. A bit of a nail just to show where we are. And this comes here. There's going to be a bit of crease there because it's tight. So there you are. That's a little bit of insight into the development of a character from nothing to something. Do that. And I will be turning this into a completed film to show you. Probably got a bit of music behind it. But yeah. So I hope you enjoyed that. You kind of watched the compass maker become go from a man. I thought it was a man, but it's not, it's a woman. And the whole concept of how time, where you are, affects how you experience that moment. And what's going to go on with her and the map and the compass, where she's heading, is yet to be decided. And that is the point of this film. It's the energy of creativity, not trying to be perfect, not the pursuing of perfection. It's not the pursuing of perfection. It's allowing in creativity to explore, to experiment, which leads you to the wonders.